Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is Shockwave. Today we're going to be going over lesson number 9 in the DCS Hornet Academy. I hope that so far you guys have enjoyed the lessons 1 through 8, and I hope you were able to learn something out of it, and that the lessons are clear enough and that they're helping you. As I mentioned in some of my videos, the lessons previous, I hope that if you're enjoying the video, please like and subscribe so that YouTube can YouTube's algorithm can promote it to more student pilots wanting to get into DCS, and also if there is anything that is missing or that is unclear or that is incorrect, because there will be things that are incorrect, to let me know in the comments, and I do plan to do addendums to the lessons to correct or add information going forward. So without further ado, let's get started with lesson 9, which is slow flight, where we're going to be covering on-speed flight, and we'll explain what that is. We're going to cover stalls and spins. So let's get going. As we had learned in the mission editor lesson number 4, we're going to go into the mission editor. I'm going to open up the mission that I had described in that lesson number 4, and so that you guys can also reproduce exactly what I'm doing. That is the goal. Every time I do something, you guys should be able to reproduce it. So here we are at Kobuleti in the Caucasus map. Again, we are at position number 3 is my Hornet, and it is set to 15,000 feet and 300 knots, and that's all there is to it. Remember, we said flyover point or turning point, either one starts you in the air. So let's get going. Get in the air and start talking about slow flight. All right, here we go. And here we are. First thing I do is check my throttle. We are at 260 knots. I think that's good enough. I press ATC as we had talked about, auto throttle control, and then I'll press autopilot and barometric altitude. And since we don't want to get too far from Kobuleti, we're going to go for a bit of a right turn as I go ahead. Let me reduce the volume real quick in the cockpit so that we can actually there you go. So click here to get rid of the stick, and click on this middle button to go to the menus so we don't get distracted by them, as we're not going to be using any of those, as that's coming later. Okay, so here we are. So we are at 270 knots, indicated 14,000 feet. I guess that's a pretty safe enough altitude to be doing some of this slow speed work. So in the previous lessons we covered the HUD. In the lesson just before this, so these basic turns, we were doing them at speed. They were between 250, 300, 350 knots. At this altitude we were doing turns, descents, and all that good stuff. Now that we've learned how to just do basic turns, and while the aircraft is producing lift, now we're going to start working at the lower speeds. The reason for that is that once you go towards the airfield or towards the carrier, you need to manage your aircraft at slow speeds. Aircrafts like to go fast. That's when the wing produces lift and you have the most control. As you start slowing down, you get close to your stall speed and you start losing control. For those who do not know what stall speed is, it is the speed at which you get to your critical angle of attack. We talked about what angle of attack was. It is the angle between the wing and the wing chord and the airflow. There is a maximum amount at which regardless of speed, if you break that critical angle of attack, you're going to stall the wing. The wing starts stalling. You might stall one wing or both wings, and basically the aircraft stops producing lift, and you're generally what's going to happen, your nose is going to pitch down. So that's what we call a stall. Of course, a stall can also happen at a given angle of attack by just slowing the airspeed. And it's not the airspeed that does it, it's because if you want to maintain your altitude, you have to pull back and increase your angle of attack. So it's not the actual airspeed that causes a stall, it's actually your angle of attack. Anyways, so let's get started. Let's go towards Kobuleti here. I'm gonna click the autopilot off button with the paddle, as we had discussed previously, and I'm gonna turn towards Kobuleti. So it's always good to know where you are, and so all of our training should happen close to Kobuleti, so we start getting a sense of where things are. So you see, for example, that big lake there, the coastline, and Kobuleti is right there. So it's always good to do that. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go towards the coast here and do our first stall. So the two ways to do the stall is you can do it at level flight, and you can do it while climbing, either way. So all you're gonna do for a stall is you're in level flight, you pull back on the throttle all the way, and you try to maintain your altitude. So you see the um, speed is going down. It's going down very slowly. So what I'm going to do is put the speed brake on. You can see it right there. We'll go over the controls for that real quick as well. But we're going to basically stay at 15,000 feet until we stall. So look at what's happening. Look at our angle of attack. You remember angle of attack was this guy? So we're at 8 degrees, 9 degrees, 10. And you see how I'm going to get rid of the speed brake. You see the vortices are usually also an indication. So we are 150 feet, and this is how it looks like. So we are actually losing altitude, so I'm going to pitch up, pull back on the stick. So I'm going to add some power just before stalling, so that we can and also I'm going to put down my flaps to full flaps. That is the stall warning. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is just and you can see the flaps are down because they're at full right there. What I'm trying to do is see if I can see, we lost about 2,000 feet there. I'm just trying to show what this looked like. Let me go control YY so we don't. Okay. So what's happening is okay, let's go back up. So what's happening is the aircraft is stalling. That is what that. In fact, I'm gonna put my flaps back on auto. See, and try that again. So we're 180 knots, and there's the angle of attack 10 degrees. I'm adding a little bit of power so that it doesn't happen so fast. 14 degrees angle of attack. The aircraft is still doing okay, but we are you see the velocity vector is below the horizon, so we are actually losing altitude. So this is how it looks like. We're at a high angle of attack, losing altitude, we can't maintain speed. If we wanted to maintain altitude, we have to pitch up more. So let's try that. So now we're climbing, right? Here, let me do this. Okay, let's pull back on the power. I'm gonna add very little power. So this is called a power on stall. So we're gonna have a little bit of power. And that's what it looks like. I'm just full backstick right now, and the plane is stalled, and the nose just automatically dips down. You see, like, we're basically falling from the sky, and this is what a stall looks like, right? So the Hornet is a very docile plane, it looks like, and all you have to do to get out of the stall is pitch down, full throttle, and look at the angle of attack. It went from 20, 15, and I'm just turning. I don't have to turn. 10 degrees, 8 degrees, and we're back. And we're back at 6, 5 degrees of angle of attack. So now that's what that looks like. So let's do a full power on stall. So we're gonna go full burners. And even the mighty Hornet just can't handle. I'm gonna go out of burner. But even the mighty Hornet can't handle this level of. So let's see what happens here. We're at a 45 degree, and we are essentially. I'm full backstick now. Full backstick. So the Hornet is basically. Here we go. So, alright, let's get rid of that. Okay, so, and to recover, you just pitch down, full throttle, and you basically try to go back to level flight, and you see the velocity vector comes up. Your goal is to get the velocity vector at level flight, which is right there. That means you're fully recovered from that stall. You see we're at 260 knots at the speed, and our angle of attack is 4.6 degrees. So you want to get from the 20 degrees of angle of attack to 4 degrees roughly to go back to level flight. So that is stalls, and okay, let's climb back up and turn back a little bit. Climb back up. And this ain't a Cessna, so we're doing 24,000 feet per minute rate of climb right now. So we're already through 20,000. All right. Let's turn a little bit towards Colbilletti, and then let's try a full afterburner stall here. Let's push up to about 30 degrees ish and see what that looks like. I mean, we're almost at 30,000 feet here. Okay, let's pull back on the power. Pull back on the nose. There we go. Now full back. The nose is going to drop because we're stalled out. I'm full back still. It's going to try to go back. It's going to stall again. You're going to gain speed and then stall again. And you're also basically dropping like a rock. So there you go. You know, and it gets very mushy. So look at that. We just lost like 7,000 feet at least. So okay, let's get back to about 23,000 feet or so. And let's try to maintain altitude with flaps this time. Let's go full flaps down. So See our flaps coming down. And let's try to maintain this level flight. Full power back, 22,000 feet. There is the what I call it. I call that the X. There's our angle of attack going up. The X airport, and Coblety is right there. So I'm gonna add power here as we get. We're at 13 degrees. Add more power, more backsticks. Okay, my goal right now is to get that number, like us to be in a level flight. Okay, back on the power. We're 13 degrees, and it looks like this right now. So we are losing altitude. So it's actually not. Yeah, I'm full backstick right now, and looks like our stall speed is around 140 knots. Like it can't maintain altitude. We're actually not stalling. We're just at the limit here, and this is. You see 137 knots. I've got full backstick. You see, like here, full backstick right now. And the only way I can get my nose up is with power. So if I add power, and I'm at 15, 14 degrees, and this is what it looks like. And F2 view. Sorry, let me get like this. There you go, full backstick. More power, and nose goes up. Full backstick, by the way. Look at my look at the elevons. If I add more power, nose is gonna go back up. If I reduce the power, nose is gonna go back down. Right? All right. Enough of that. You guys get the point. And so to recover from a stall, like when you hear that noise, you basically are going to start losing altitude really fast. So you want to basically keep an eye on this negative number, and you don't want that to be very negative, you know, especially if you're close to the ground. Yeah, exactly. High cobility. Alrighty. Now let's get our flaps back up to auto. And now that we covered that, stall recovery, let's try to go for a spin. So for a spin, it's actually hard to do without, let's gain some altitude here. I think without differential thrust, the Hornet just can't go for a spin, but we will try. We'll gain some altitude. And the way to enter a spin is you have to go like left, like full left or full right rudder while you're in a stall. And that is usually not enough for a Hornet. Probably I have to bind differential thrust. Okay, here we go. We're at 15 degrees angle of attack, so it looks like this. And then I'm gonna go full right rudder. Full right rudder. And then you basically want low speed, and you want full right rudder. So yeah, that's not happening. All right, let's recover quickly by pointing down and full afterburner, and then let's get back to level flight. Okay, let's see if I can bind differential thrust to show that. So if I go to search or axis assign, I think it is. So my thrust right now is this guy here. Thrust left and thrust right. Let's see, where can I bind that? think I'm gonna go with a modifier and probably, yeah, let's try that. Okay, so thrust left. Actually, let's search for thrust. Nope, it is under axis assign. Okay, thrust left. Let's go for a. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, there's no keybind for it. That is interesting. So I can't. I'm not aware of how to do it. So unfortunately, without differential thrust, I don't know how to get the Hornet into spin. It's just very hard. We'll try one more time. Maybe we need to be a bit more violent about it. And the way I want to do it is, so we are kind of like this. Okay. Full right rudder, and back on the stick. There we go. Full right rudder. Full right rudder, full right rudder, full right rudder, full right rudder. Yeah, sorry guys, the Hornet is just too stable of a platform without differential thrust. It's just not doing it. So, I think I'll do a separate video on spin once I figure out how to bind my differential thrust. For now, just know that it's very hard to do, if not impossible. You know, without differential thrust. Okay, just one more time. Okay, full left rudder. Full right rudder. Come on, spin. Do it. This is how it looks like. Yeah, I just can't get it into a spin. Alright, we're done with that. Alright, anyway, if nothing else, that's a demonstration that it's like impossible to spin this thing without differential thrust. Okay, now that we've gone over how hard it is to spin and how to recover from stalls and what a stall is, and the angle of attack. So you'll notice that the stalls occur above like 15 angles of attack. Let's go over slow flight. So we're still near Kobuleti here. Let's get into level flight. And while I'm at it, a few keybinds here that you should know about. So adjust controls, go to my throttle, and for some reason, okay, anyways, search, brake. So these two are my buttons on my stick that extend, speed brake switch extend, and speed brake switch retract. So you want these two. You also want your gear, obviously. So it's this guy here. And you want your flaps. That's what we're going to be using. Flaps, flap, right? Flap up, flap down. Flap switch down, flap switch up. So bind those guys, because in slow flight we are going to be using them. So here we are, full back and speed brake out. Boom, you see that coming back, so we can slow down quickly. Below 250, put your gear down. Close to 200, put your flaps down. When you're getting close to about 150, put your speed brake back out. And there you go. Now try to maintain level flight by adding power. Okay. Now, if you haven't touched your trim, which by the way, let's go look at trim, just controls, trim, and okay. So trim, it usually goes on a hat. It's usually on your stick, but I have it on my throttle, and it's left, right, up, and down. So trimmer switch, left wing down, and then right wing down, push to descend, and pull to climb. So you want these bound. Okay. So, so you'll notice a few things. So first of all, let's try to get you'll notice that to maintain level flight with my current trim setting, which if you want to see what that trim is, you go here in the middle button, and then you go here to checklist, and it says I have a 7-degree trim right now, which is not sufficient for slow flight. So, but it's just to demonstrate that basically I have to keep to maintain altitude at the speed. I have to basically keep pulling back on the stick, right? So, and we don't want that. So the way that we release pressure on a stick, it's called trim. Trim basically changes your flight surfaces in a way that where you want them, and then so you don't have to move your stick as much. So right now, what we want to do is trim up. So I'm going to trim up, so I don't have to keep pulling on my stick anymore. Okay. And forget that bracket. That is called the E bracket. We're going to talk about that in a second. But for now, all you want to do is just play with your throttle and your trim. So there is two ways. You remember that that little plane thingy is your flight path vector, right? There's two ways for that to go up and down. So if it's above the horizon line, you're climbing. Let's like right now, we're about 58, whatever. And if it's below you, you're descending. So you want to keep it level. Now you can increase that in two ways. One is, I'm going to add power right now. Let's do this so you can see my throttle. I add power, it goes up. Reduce power, it goes back down. I add power, it goes back up. That is one way. The other is I'm going to keep the power so that it's more or less stable. And the other way, you're not going to be able to see it, but essentially I'm going to change my trim. So I'm going to trim up. Right now I'm trimming up. As you can see, I'm at 20% trim right now. It's not really doing very much, but and then the other way is to trim down. So 19, 18, 17, and you see that it's dropping like a rock. So that's how you can point your nose up and down. It's either with trim or with power. And the combination of the two basically is your angle of attack. So and it relates to your speed. So when you go slower, you need a higher angle of attack, so you have to pitch up, and so on. Now, so let's trim up, and let's get the velocity vector in the middle of the E bracket, and so I can tell you what that is all about. So let's head towards the X airport X. Level flight, and then we'll talk about two very important things that you need to know in order to do any landings in anything, whether it's an airfield or a carrier. Alright, so we are right now on speed. This is called on speed and level flight. So two things to talk about here. The first is this yellow indicator here. There's a yellow, there's a green, and there is a red. Now, when and then I'm gonna add power, so we don't descend. This is your AOA, or angle of attack indicator. Its sole purpose is to tell you how far away you are, or if you are on speed. On speed means you are at the about 8 degrees of angle of attack, which is the optimal angle of attack for a 3-degree glide slope, meaning your angle at which you're descending towards the carrier or an airfield. 3 degrees is kind of standard. And the angle of attack and the speed that that is necessary to achieve that, without going too fast or too slow. It's the optimal angle of attack to catch a hook and to get the main wheels on the runway. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is this. So if I trim up and add power, look at my speed. My speed is going down, or sorry, it's going up. Sorry. So and let's go level so that we don't confuse that with other things. All right. So here we go. We are 134 knots, and so we are basically we are too slow. So that green arrow is telling us that our nose is too high because we are at 10.5 angle of attack, degrees of angle of attack, and we need to get it to 8. So green means that you're too slow. I mean, but forget that. Just look at it like an arrow, like for your nose. So this is saying arrow down means you need to pitch down. Your nose is too high, and you can check that with the angle of attack, and you need to pitch down. Now the opposite is true if we add power and nose down. Okay. And keep adding power so that we are at level flight. There you go. So in this case, we are faster. What that means is, because we're faster, the wings produce more lift, and they don't have to have such a high angle of attack. So the wings can produce lift in 2 ways. One is you either go faster and you produce more lift, or one is you have more angle of attack to produce more lift. It's kind of like when you stick your hand out of the side of your car. You notice when you change the angle of your hand, it produces more lift and your hand wants to go up. Same thing with if your car is driving faster, just a small change in your hand makes a big difference because you have a lot of lift due to speed. So we are doing 152 knots, and you have this red arrow pointing up. What does that mean? It means your nose is too low, and you need to pitch your nose up. Your attitude of your nose has to be higher to be able to achieve optimal angle of attack of 8 degrees. So we are at 5.4 here. And although we are in level flight and we are slow, we're just too fast. So that's what this indicator is, and when it goes orange, it means you are on speed and near your angle of attack, optimal angle of attack. Okay. Alrighty, so that's what that is, and you can change the brightness of that thing here for night operations. And there's something to do with the hook bypass. I don't remember. There was something to do with the AOA, but I will try to put it in the comments or something. Anyways. Now, the other thing that you can look at besides this is the E bracket, which is it is like an inverse E. So this E, if your velocity vector is within these brackets, you're close to your optimal angle of attack for landing. If it's in the middle, it's actually perfect, and it's 8 degrees. When your E bracket is above your velocity vector, you are going fast. When it's below it, you're going slow. So think of it again as your nose. Your nose is below where it should be here. So and you need to get to the optimal angle of attack. You need to get this nose up high. And if it's high, you need to get it low. So you want to move your nose towards the E bracket. So let's do that. Let's try to get on speed. First of all, so we trim up, trim up, trim up. So now we are in the orange and we are within the E bracket and we are on speed. So if you look, our angle of attack has gone away because that is interesting. But anyways, you should know that it's around 8 degrees. So right now, you can do minor adjustments to make sure that your velocity vector wing is level with your E brackets. So now we are perfectly going at the right speed. When this happens, and you can see we are at about 140 knots or so. When this happens, this is called on-speed flight. And I'm not touching my stick at all right now. All I'm doing is I'm moving my throttle. And this is what you need to practice very and get this. You need to master this. If you master this, your carrier landings and your airfield landings will be look like a breeze. So right now we're climbing. So once you've set your on speed, you just typically, in the Hornet at least, it doesn't vary very much. It will vary a bit, like when you're banking and you're climbing and stuff, but you don't have to worry about it too much. Every once in a while, you just adjust it. On other aircraft like the T-45 Goshawk or especially the T-45, it varies a lot. It's very hard to, like, you constantly have to pitch. So yeah, just feel lucky that in the Hornet it's very stable and your flight control system is really helping you. Alright, so if you want to be in level flight, you basically try to go back and forth on the throttle until the velocity vector is roughly on that horizon line. If you notice right here, we have our vertical speed indicator. We are doing minus 40 or, sorry, let me reduce my angle of bank, but yeah, this is like positive 200, 100, whatever, right? Like this is your rate of climb, and you can see that we're more or less holding 14,100 feet while doing a turn. So that looks like this. All right. See, I haven't even touched the. We are gaining a bit of speed. So let's reduce the throttle and. Okay. So yeah, when you're doing this, this is a turn at basically at your on speed, your level turn on speed, and yeah. So basically, I mean, we're pitching down a bit here because I'm not looking where I'm going. Yeah. So all we have to do is add power to get this thing back up. And if the thing moves a little bit, you just pitch up slightly and get it back to the middle. Pitch down a bit, and we're back. Okay. So this is how you want to be on speed, either around around the pattern on the airfield and around the pattern on the carrier, and when you're on short final or like in final on a case 3, like night approach to the carrier, or when you're on a final approach on an instrument approach, for example. So that's that. So what you should practice. This is one of the things you should practice the most. Do not go past this lesson without mastering this. Do not. It's going to make everything harder. This is the one lesson you do not skip. So practice descents. For example, in the carrier brake, you have to descend from 800 feet to 600 feet on your downwind. So practice going down 200 feet at and getting on speed. You know, in the pattern, you have to always be on speed while you're on the downwind, and um, throughout your um, base leg. So practice level flight turns, practice climbs on speed. When the thing moves out, practice getting it back on. The other thing to practice, once you've got that out of the way, is transitioning. So let's transition from on speed to level flight, normal level flight, which will be above 250 knots. So first things first, you basically increase your speed, and you basically push down on your throttle. As your speed is going up, you get your flaps up, you correct. As your speed is going up, you get your gear up. Actually, you should have done that before. So let's pull back on the power. So my mistake. Probably if you gear first, right? Gear first, then flaps. But because you don't want to overspeed your gear, make sure your gear doesn't remain extended past 200 knots. Now that the gear and flaps are up, yeah, you're just accelerating. And the Hornet, it's at 4.6 angle of attack. It automatically adjusts your trim for you. That's one of the beauties of this aircraft. It's very friendly. Now that you've done that, go ahead and, what do you call it? Try to transition back to slow flight. So you're at 270 knots. Pull back on the stick, and pull back on the throttle. So you'll see that your speed is going up. As it's coming back up, trim up. Start trimming up slightly. You're below 250, put your gear down. Trim up, trim up, trim up, trim up, trim up, trim up. When you're close to 200, put your flaps down, full flaps. Pull your stick if you need to avoid losing altitude, and start trimming. Trim up. With your stick, you want to hold, make the larger corrections. With your trim, you want to make the shorter corrections. Eventually, as you can see there, you're gonna have to put in a lot of throttle, so you have to anticipate that to make sure that you stop dropping. So right now I put the throttle back in, and I'm trimming up. At this point, what you want to focus on is always focus on doing whatever necessary to maintain your level flight, whether with your stick, your trim, or your throttle. So right now I'm adding throttle, and I'm corrected with my trim, and I'm not touching my stick anymore. Okay, now let's put the flaps back up and the gear back up. Try that one more time. So right now I'm correcting with my stick to maintain, and I'm adding throttle. Stick, forward stick, forward stick, forward stick, less throttle, less throttle, less throttle. And we're back at 220 knots. Okay, now back on the throttle, throttle back, gear down, flaps down, back stick, throttle down, forward stick, forward stick, forward stick. I should probably, yeah, no, I won't do that. Let it, okay, anticipate the fact that you're gonna need power. Start adding power, and back stick. There you go, power is back in, right? Power is back in, back stick, and start trimming up. Power, trim up. Power, trim up. A little less power, a little more trim. And there you have it. Now you're back, a little trim, a little power, and I'm not using my stick. The smoother you do that, the less stick you need to do. The more the harsher you do it, the more you have to use your stick, and you want to try to avoid that. But sometimes you just can't. All right, folks. So it's not all that easy. It takes a while to get the hang of this. So make sure you practice that. and don't move on to the next lesson. Don't move to airfield ops or carrier ops without mastering this. You have to master this. Not just know it a little bit. You need to master it. So gear up, full throttle, and back to flaps up, gear up, and we're back. Okay, guys, that was stalls, on speed, e-bracket, angle of attack indicator, and the spins, which we couldn't do, but I'll try to see if I'll make a separate video on spins. So for now, go ahead and put your aircraft at 15,000 feet, 300 knots, and go and practice putting your gear down, your flaps down, getting on speed, playing with your trigger, going back and forth between on speed and landing configuration, and you know, normal level flight. Okay. Hope that was clear enough, guys. It is a bit of an interesting topic, but it is extremely important. So go ahead and make sure you practice this. The reason for that is the next lesson is going to be the airfield pattern. So we're gonna go basically wherever Kobuleti is probably right below us. We're gonna go to Kobuleti, and we're going to talk about the airfield patterns, the standard like airfield patterns, and how to get into the pattern and out of the pattern and do go arounds. And a lot of that is going to be transitioning to slow flight and landing configuration. So you're gonna need to have, like, once we cover a lesson, we're assuming that you know how to do that. So we're not gonna go back to it ever again.
Altitude. Altitude.
And so you basically need to avoid worrying about the next, like, having to figure out what on speed is, right? You basically have to make sure that you practice your stuff. Okay, so yeah, there you have it. See you guys in the next lesson.